here with the folks of Cheap Perfume. Welcome. And I don't ask this first question in a light colloquial sense, but considering everything that's been going on lately, how are you doing?
That's a very tricky question. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here talking to you, Jackie. I think that I am trying my hardest to use all of my tools that I had through the last Trump administration. Like I had a moment yesterday where I kind of started to panic about something, and then I was like, okay, I remember this from last time. And obviously it's like turned up so much, but I remember this from last time, like being like, it's always something. Just like that's the point of this. It's always something. It's like it is a constant beat down, and that is part of what they're doing here. And so just like think like, okay. What do you think, Jane? How are you doing?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I noticed this just like underlying anxiety and tension that's like always there. And I'm definitely not saying that the Biden administration was perfect or anything by any means. There was still a lot of problems, and we were still singing about them. But I'm just saying it is worse now, and it's worse than the first Trump presidency as well, and the fascism is really increasing, and so I think we're all feeling that. And I think it's sort of like a electricity. It feels like there's like this electricity in my blood. It's really hard to relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being aware that it's part of the machine is a little bit, I can't even say comforting because it's not comforting, right? But it's at least being aware that it's part of their intention.
Yeah.
That kind of helps manage it a little bit better, I hope.
Yeah. And helps us. That kind of like activates that rebellion in me. And I'm like, I'm not going to let them win.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's like a little bit of a switch in times like this, because Jane's right. It's not like it's not like we ever stopped like community work or just like political movement in general, but it is like just so like overwhelming now that it is like, it makes me like more mischievous though, which is kind of fun. And then I also think that there's the other side of what I had forgotten about, which is like this deep community banded feeling that happens. It's like this unknowing switch that everybody kind of, it's like the glance that everybody gives each other when we know that we need to be operating different within our spaces for each other, and for ourselves.
Well said. And I think troubled times make for good music, right? Good fuel for good music. Your new single, Dead If I Do, is out with your soon to be released album, Don't Care, Didn't Ask, which I love that title. That is out October 3rd. How does this song showcase the band's sound on this new album?
I think that this song is like one end of the spectrum, and it's not to say like this is like the only time it gets heavy like this or anything like that, because like this album has a lot of depth, and a lot more musical depth than I think that we had previously included. But I think that this one is very, very raw and ragey, and was written as a group, like to really represent that. Yeah. Further, sorry, that sometimes I forget the full question. I get like excited, and then I'm like, this is one part of how I'm feeling about it, and then I kind of forget the rest of it.
It's totally fine. Who or what inspired the song?
Okay. So this song is kind of, obviously like there's the play on the words like damned if I do, damned if I don't. But just like a very continued frustration of living in a world where, I mean, like victim blaming is so rampant, and we're told that we're supposed to be handling things one way or doing things one way. And when it just like, I think it really comes down to that we're not addressing the problem, and the problem is male violence, and that affects so many people on a global scale. And I know, like right now, for me personally, like I've been stalked now by a stranger for over 3 years, but we've been in the legal system for 14 months now, and like we're just spinning wheels as he's collecting more violations of the restraining order. And it's just like crazy to me, this entire like experience, like I'm a little white girl and I have a lot of privilege, and I'm still having so much, like just blockage in this system. I can't imagine what this is like for other people with way less privilege, less access. And I think that it's really, really horrifying. I mean, like, like a 9-hour response time by police to somebody breaking a restraining order is insane. And, in my situation, it's like, it didn't turn violent, but for other people it does. So I think that this is just kind of a collective of a lot of things though, because then you look at the survivors of Epstein and the bravery that it takes for them to like literally go up against the most powerful authoritarian regime against like in the world. I know how much it affects me when I talk about my experience in my, micro way. And I think that we're really seeing a lot of people, like rise and saying that they're not going to experience this anymore, because it doesn't really matter what we do, it's not stopping. So I think it's also just a call to like protect ourselves no matter what. There's no other system in place that will protect you, but you can protect you and your community can protect you.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. I feel terrible that you have to experience that, and that's unfortunately some of what we're dealing with. To return to the album, how is Don't Care, Didn't Ask an evolution of your sound since Nailed It?
I think we've gotten more, I don't know. I was going to say more mature, but I don't actually think that's true. We've definitely got more like comfortable as a band and like maybe more comfortable in who we are and knowing exactly what we want to say now. Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard one. I think about it a lot. It's not like a curveball question or anything, but I just I don't know that I have a great answer for that one because on one hand, like the album is way more polished and I think you can tell hopefully just that we have 10 years under our belt now of writing together. And so I think in some ways it's more cohesive.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so I'll say from my experience, like I grew up playing violin, but I never learned how to read sheet music. And just music theory in general is kind of lost on me. I'm just like definitely more of somebody who learns through, I don't know. I guess I don't always feel like I grasp like rhythm and stuff the most. I'm always like amazed at Jane and Jeff and Dave and like the sound that they can bring, and the sound that we can all bring as a team. But I think that like, as the years have gone, there's like all kinds of little Easter eggs that I always think are a really big deal, but I don't think that they think about as much. So some things like that for me are like that Jane actually wrote the bass part for It's Okay to Punch Nazis, which I actually think is like just like so fun. And then in this album, Jeff has a lot more guitar parts that he wrote. And then Jane, I believe you did a little bit, some more bass. And then Jane plays a little like piano on this too in some ways, and Jeff sings. And so if anything, maybe this has become like a little bit more like incorporated, or everybody is like a little bit more like they share like thoughts and music theory. And maybe they were doing that all along and I just didn't know, but I got to see it in a really cool way this time.
Excellent. You mentioned, the band's been going strong for 10 years, and I feel like, especially in the last 2 years, a band will have one viral song via TikTok and then kind of fade into obscurity. Not every band, but lots of them, it kind of feels like. What do you attribute to your band's longevity?
The ongoing fall of America and everything else. Fascism.
Yeah, I guess just all that we have so much to write about because of that. We have a lot of feelings that we still want to express. But I also just attribute it to sticking it out with people when it's hard. Like, especially with creatives, working together and trying to create even like one song when you have 4 different voices pouring into it, can be hard. Uh, and then, um, just all the other relationship stuff between being in a 4-person relationship, um, being able to like have tough conversations and like own your shit when you need to own your shit. And I think it's just been a big choice for us to stick together and keep making it work because we have something to say. Um, and that is what drives us and keeps us working toward that common goal.
Yeah. I also think that we have like a lot of really young people that follow us. And that's like really, really meaningful to everybody. So I think that there's also been times that it's just like, this is a little bigger than us. So
Speaking of which, your music really rallies change in a time that it's really very needed. What do you think, or what are some recommendations that fans can do to kind of bring about change on a local scale?
Yeah, I think about this a lot because it can feel so overwhelming and so helpless. Every day when you listen to the news, it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do about this? About what's going on in Gaza? What am I supposed to do about what's going on in my own community with like ICE raids? And it can feel really helpless. And that I think leads to the temptation to just give up and to just turn it off. And of course, sometimes you do just need to turn it off for a few days, but I think for me, the thing that helps me feel not as insane and the thing that I think is actually making the most difference is direct action and mutual aid. So this idea of going out into your community and helping your neighbors. So like, how can you help the underserved people in your community? Building community, like holding forums for people to learn about how to be good activists. Building community spaces, and then direct action, like make people uncomfortable. Like maybe you get arrested for blocking some traffic or like doing something else that breaks like a minor law so that you can actually like bring attention to um a specific cause. Because protests like the No Kings protests and such, those are good because they make people feel the solidarity and they can help you feel that sense of community. But if you're just like sticking within the police approved parameters of like where to stand and what to do. Like nobody cares. Like that's not doing anything except probably making you feel better, which is good and still important, but make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think that I gave a little smirk when Jane was mentioning getting arrested potentially for blocking traffic, because maybe Jane has done something like that. But to say also, I love all your points, and I think that they're really fantastic. And but it's like, if you can't get out into your community, it's also really good to remember that there's jobs for everybody in the revolution, and there always will be. And so, you know, if that for you, if you don't have the ability, access to get out into the streets, it could be like writing letters to people at your local like offices. It could be also like figuring out within your community if there's a letter writing campaign to prisoners that like might need just like support while they're like, you know, doing their time like as like political prisoners. And then I mean, it's like also, I guess, just like being around for your friends and checking in on like maybe like your trans friends and your queer friends, and just making sure in general that if there are people in need that you can like be a pickup. But I guess like what I'm trying to say poorly, that any talent or medium you have can and is important and can be used to like to be a part of it too. So there's nothing to feel bad for if one thing isn't your thing, because there is something that is your thing, and it's just kind of looking at how you can use that within your community, within your friend group, to help.
Speaking of which, how or why should musicians use their platform to help bring about change? I know that's a
Jane,
tough
do you want to go? Oh
one.
no, I mean, it's funny because you could either never get me to shut up ever, or, so I was just trying to see if Jane wanted to go before I started yapping.
Sure. So, um, I think, you know, it's not for every musician. A musician might want to just share for another reason. You know, like it's such a personal creative expression that not everybody's going to use that for social change, but it's something that we care about. And I think that punk specifically is very um conducive to sharing thoughts of like revolution and calling for social change. And so I just want musicians to share what they want to share, like what's coming from inside of you. And what's coming from inside of us is like, we really want this social change. We want a revolution. There's um so many issues that we want to change to a more equitable society for everybody. And so that's what we care about thinking about. And music is a great way to do it, especially punk, just because you can get up there and you can challenge norms and you can challenge the status quo and you can just ruffle some feathers on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that as we watch like the platforms shrink or disappear completely for some people, it's very important that we bring awareness as much as we can. And I think that it's definitely also one of those things a little bit that, and this isn't the case for everybody, but maybe there's also a little privilege involved, that it's just like, if you have an audience, use it, because now is the time. There's no more time, you know, there's no more time to not be loud and to not be talking.
Absolutely. It's definitely, unfortunately, the time. Returning back to the music, Jane, you mentioned, you know, a form of personal expression. Is there, and I'm not trying to reduce you to one line, but if there is one line or one song on the new album that you would want a new listener to hear, to kind of get a real sense of where your band is right now, what would that be?
I think it might be Down to Riot. Because, well, there's so many, like, I don't know. Also, probably it's Capitalism. That one kind of sums up the album too. It just talking about like coming together in class solidarity and realizing that the government is not on your side, especially now. And they've made it like, oh, conservatives versus liberals, so that it takes the pressure off of them as the ruling class. And so I would love to see like the people versus the ruling class, and for us to realize that we've got to stand up against this oligarchy, and they're not helping anyone. And so just coming together against that and realizing that capitalism is really the root of many, if not all, of the world's problems that we're facing right now. It goes back to capitalism. So I might say in that case, probably it's Capitalism, the first song on the album. What do you think, Stephanie?
I don't know. One line that's hard. There's a lot of lines. There's a lot of lines in that album. Sick of living with your foot on my throat is a fun one that comes to mind. So,
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just realizing you didn't ask for a song. You asked for a line from a song.
Well, I said or song because I had a feeling that choosing just one line would be a bit tricky.
That's so funny because my brain 100% stuck on the line. And okay, song might be a little bit easier. I was like, lines, there's so many.
No, I like that, Stephanie. That's a good one. I love that. I love screaming that line with you.
I think that one song on the album that maybe I'm excited for, like in the way of like, it's just Anytown USA. And it's like, maybe just a little bit lower tempo than Down to Riot, but still just like a very political song that we wrote about our town, that as we continued to talk about it, we were like, this is all of them. This is any of the towns, because this is, this is a mass system. And so Anytown USA is kind of one that I've been thinking about too.
Right. Well, Don't Care, Didn't Ask comes out on October 3rd. So thank you again to Cheap Perfume for this conversation. I appreciate it. And I hope to hear from y'all real soon.